This is Hughes from Outdoor Staycations. Today's video I'm going to show you the best and easiest way to back your truck to hitch up a fifth wheel. I tried doing it early in the morning, so I try and do it in a quiet and peaceful method. So after 2 years of traveling full-time, pulling my fifth wheel behind me, I'll show you some of the secrets, the techniques that I use to do it quietly, so you can sneak out of your campground in the early morning. Today I'm at Circle Lake Campground. It's been a hectic 10 days from mooch docking at my daughter's house up in Seattle to now I'm in Texas. I'm sitting here at the Circle Lake Campground waiting for a gate guard position. Mary and I have done Dollywood, we've done the Beat Harbors, Lake Compound, so we thought we would try to do the gate guard next for a couple months and rack up some of the money so we can buy gas for our next adventure. Throughout this video I'm going to be pausing it a few times to move cameras around. As you can see, it's a little overcast, it's a little chilly today, not like the 70s it was a few days ago. And again, I'm going to pause it and move the camera. Now, this part of the video is a little awkward. These are the stabilizing jacks in the back. As you can see in the stabilizing jack, I have a board underneath it. This increases the footprint of the rear stabilizing jack and allows it, especially in sandy, wet, or in our case we do a lot of grass, it allows it to increase the footprint so it would be less susceptible to sinking into the dirt and then having a rocking motion when you're walking around. I do use two tools for this. I use a ratchet wrench, as you can see here, and I use a drill bit. Doing this left-handed, so it'll be a little difficult. Now the racket wrench, as you can see, would be tightening it in this particular case. Flip it around and you'll be loosening it. Once it's loose, I'll take my bit, 3/4 inch if I remember right. Yeah, 3/4, and bring it up like that. That's as simple it is to it. It allows me, especially when it's very well extended, not to crank it for 5 minutes to get it up, so the drill works very quickly on it. And I use these two tools almost exclusively for just the rear stabilizing jacks. I'm going to pause it and move around to the front. Now I've moved around to the front underneath the tongue of my fifth wheel. I'm sitting on the bed of my truck. One of the first things I want to talk about is your locks. In this particular case, I have a kingpin. This is your kingpin underneath, and it is a lock that, with a lock, a key, a slide bolt, protects your fifth wheel from wandering off when you're not around. Now, in this particular part of Texas, there are literally thousands of trailers and lots next to houses. Other lots like this is a Circle Lake. There's probably about 40 to 50 units here. There's another one across the street. There are literally hundreds and hundreds of places for fifth wheels and travel trailers to disappear to. So one of the first things you need to do is get yourself a lock. There is a lock for a regular travel trailer. My neighbor has one over here. I have the fifth wheel. Whenever I leave, this is my home. If it disappears, I'd be very disappointed. I'd also be doubly disappointed because somebody would get a fully clipped fifth wheel to live in, and if this disappeared somewhere in Texas or anywhere in the Hunter's Woods up in Maine, you'll never find it again once you take the plate off, and I suspect nobody will even go looking for it. So I strongly suggest you pick a lock, and in a future video, which I think you should pay attention to and subscribe to, I'm going to go through how to lock best you can your fifth wheel and travel trailer to do the best you can to keep it. Now, I've already backed in my truck. Again, this video is designed to be how to quietly back up your fifth wheel. If I do it quietly enough, I'll be happy. Again, I want to go over the parts. This is the kingpin. Behind me is the saddle on the hitch. What you're going to end up doing is trying to get this fifth wheel kingpin into that hitch as quietly as possible and without as less jarring on your trailer as possible. So I'm going to move around. This particular hitch is called a slider hitch, a slider fifth wheel hitch. You see the lever on the right hand side? This allows this whole hitch to slide back up to 10 inches. Now when they put the hitch on your bed, it's important that the weight of the fifth wheel sits directly over your axles or just slightly in front of it, but not behind it. When you're pulling into a campground, you often have to pivot at such an angle that the front of your fifth wheel could eventually punch out the back window of your pickup truck. So by moving that lever, this will slide back up to 10 inches, allow you better pivot points for getting in and out of tight camp spots. In my particular case, even though I bought the hitch before the trailer, I really didn't need it and I've never used it. The reason why is that my kingpin that sees here sits well out in front of my travel trailer, so even with it in a full forward position, I never need to bring it backwards. I can make a back in easily into the tightest spots without having to need the extra 10 inches. But like I said, I bought the hitch before I bought the trailer, and I have a more expensive hitch than I really need. On the left side of this, you're going to see a lock. And a slide mechanism. Looks like I need a little bit of grease on it, but what I did is I pulled the slide out and I've got it ready for the kingpin hitch, so when it comes into your receiver, it will be able to lock in, and that's what holds your trailer onto the bed of your truck when you're traveling. Now I'm also going to tilt this a little forward, and the goal is to try and get the front of my the top of the kingpin, the front of the tongue, to hit right about here, above the slope, but below the end of it in. So what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to leave it running. I'm going to back in. I'm going to move the camera back a hair so I don't take my camera out. And you're going to be able to see me back in as it catches. Now, as you can see, I'm actually not quite in alignment. For one, and for two is I don't actually have the right height. So I'm gonna have to bring my fifth wheel pin down. Gonna retract it. Again, I'm trying to get it so it hits barely the upslope. So bear with me a few seconds. I'm bringing her down. And I'm going to have to bring her in a little closer. As you can see, it was as simple as that. It fully came in. It fully came in and locked in just like I'd promised. It did it relatively quietly and without a lot of pressure on the fifth wheel. Now, this did lock. It went to the locking position. The next issue you should be aware of is that this is a small lock. You're going to want to lock your slider for the reason of safety. If you've ever been in a pilot and you've gone inside after filling your gas tank up and gone for a cup of coffee like I usually do, and somebody behind you gets upset because they're waiting for gas and you just left, all they have to do is, well, you're not there, and when you pull away, your trailer will not come with you. And it's as simple as that. Somebody just has to pull that lever while you're not paying attention. And when you put this in drive and you pull forward, your trailer will fall onto the bed of your truck and eventually probably onto the ground. So I tell you very, very, very seriously that I'm not locking it now, but use the lock whenever you get in your fifth wheel after a stop. Look very quickly to see if you have that lock in place, and you certainly will have a more enjoyable trip if you arrive at your destination with your fifth wheel. Now we've got it locked in, and the next thing we're going to do is look at the front jacks and start lowering them. Let me pause it for a second. Now moving on to the next, which is my front legs. One of the things I didn't show you is that after I backed in and the trailer, the Kingpin, hitched and latched, sealed tight, I did let it roll forward a little bit. What happens on these particular units is when you back them up, you start putting stress on your front legs. The stress being that you backed into it and now the legs are slightly angled. And how do you alleviate that is put it in drive a little bit, pull it forward just a hair, take the tension off it. Do not put your emergency brakes on, just leave it in park. You want it to be able to move a little bit. If I did it right, we should be able to lift the legs off this with a minimum of tension on the front legs. On the inside of this trailer, you're going to see the leg. The leg is here. There is on the inside here a gear system which rises the leg up. There is a bar coming across, and between that bar and your gears there is a pin, and that particular pin shears if it's done correctly. So what we're going to try and do is raise it with the least amount of tension on the front leg, and if we did it right, you won't hear a lot of banging or groaning. Second thing you'll see is a white line here. The white line is specifically to show me how far to go down before I start cranking it. In other words, cranking means you hear the gear crank or the gear strains. When that starts happening, you're damaging your gear structure. So what I did is I found out the bottom when the gear first starts to crank and starts cracking. I marked it and I'll never go below that level again. As you see, she's coming down nicely and doing it with the least amount of tension on the front leg. So we did a pretty good job this time. We didn't have enough or a lot of backward push when we backed into it, and we took the pressure off it. Now underneath it, you'll see that I usually have two boards. Actually one, but in this case, our height is a little high, so there's now two. What this allows me to do is when we're backing it up, it allows that front, I'm going to pause, stand up a second. That board underneath allows the front jack plate to slide when you're backing in. If you're on a concrete tarmac, it has a tendency of binding, and so when you back in, your pad stays the same, your trailer leans back a hair, and you get the tension when it's trying to bring the square post up into the cranking mechanism. So by allowing it to slide, as you slide back a little bit, allows the foot to slide back a little, and as you see, there's been no tension on it when it's rising, and no bigger binding. So again, we talked about backing it in, the hitch, lining it up, setting of the front plate. At this point, I'm just going to go in and bring my two foot pegs up that you know about already, and lock her in place, and she's good to go. Now, in one of my upcoming videos, which I think is very important, is going to be about how to secure your RV. If one of these, or in case my unit, if my unit gets stolen, I'd be hard pressed to replace it. The time for the insurance to kick in, sitting in a hotel, the loans, all that stuff to go along with it. So I don't want to lose it. So there are many ways to secure or protect as best you can your fifth wheel or travel trailer. So my next video coming up will be about that particular subject. To make sure you happen to get or receive that video, make sure you hit the bell. That's the only way you're guaranteed to get my videos. I'm not going to slam you. I do one, maybe two videos at most a week. They're mostly informative or the campfire chats. So please subscribe. I'd like you to see that video. And again, it's going to tell you about keys, what are out there, what you need to change or replace in it to keep your unit as secure as you possibly can. So again, this is Hughes at Outdoor Staycations. Visit our website, hit our bell. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, the only thing I didn't show you is hooking up the electric in the back, the safety wire, which is your emergency brake system. If you lose your trailer, it automatically locks the brakes of your unit up, which we never want to use. And like I said, the only thing we didn't do is lift the jacks up, but you know how to do that. Again, Hughes from Outdoor Staycation. Safe journeys.